All right, here we go. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Mehmet, how are you?
Fine, Eric. Thanks for the invite. How are you?
Yeah, I love it. I love having you here. Hey, if you're out there, this is I'm Eric Johnson. This is Mehmet, and watch this, Mehmet Devechi. Did I
Yes.
get it right?
Yes.
What's up? What's up? Hey, I see John Walsh out there already. If you're out there, tell us, say hello, howdy, and tell us where you're coming in from. I'd love to see where we're talking to people from. But if the first time on the show, if this is your first, they pay me to speak here, and I'm not doing very well today. So if this is the first time to visit our show, we're really excited you're here. This is Serverless Office Hours. And today we're going to be talking about SAM Accelerate, and my PowerPoint's going wild. Again, this is Serverless Office Hours. We've shown this on YouTube Live. We show it on Twitch Live. You can get the QR codes there to check that out. Oh, first time chat from viewer. Pranita. Pranita's here. Hello, Pranita. Glad you're here. Dan MBA from Miami. Zach. Yep. So we got some of our watchers here. Today, again, I want to introduce you. This is Mehmet Devechi. Mehmet, tell us a little bit about you. What do you do? Where are you at?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mehmet Nuri Deveci. I'm a senior software engineer in the Serverless Application Experience Serverless Builder Tools team. So we are responsible for SAM Transform and SAM CLI.
That's right. And so if you followed me on Twitter a lot of times I say things like, I get to watch some cool demos and things like that. But what you don't know is after every one, I bugged the heck out of Mehmet to get me a copy of what they just demoed. And he knows this last time he literally said, I knew this was coming. And he was right. He was right. I am very impatient. I like to get my hands on the newest, the latest and greatest. I believe you should test alpha in production. That's the way I go. I stress people out, But today, if you got a chance earlier this week, or actually last week, a week ago today, I spoke did the keynote for Serverless Days Nashville, and we talked about developing. What I talked about was mistakes I've made with serverless, very honestly, and I've been doing serverless since the day it started. When we announced AWS Lambda, I remember standing there and looking at the screen and going, "Wow, why would I do this any other way?" And so I've been doing it forever, and I have made every mistake in the book. Mehmet, have you ever made mistakes doing serverless?
Every time.
Okay. First you shook your head no. I was like, oh, come on. I know. Every time. Yeah. So we're all learning and things like that. And so as serverless gets more and more popular, and as we get as we do more with it and offer more services, we want to build a developer experience that helps you be able to quickly develop serverless applications. And that's what Mehmet's team does with SAM. So Zach is from Bangalore, India. Welcome, Zach. I know you're here a lot, but I didn't know you were from India. That's awesome. So, all right. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about AWS Accelerate. Last week, if you missed it, we kind of had a theme over the last 2 weeks where we were building media files. We were converting media files with James's GIF creator, and then last week near real-time media conversion with the AWS step functions. Some really cool stuff from Prashant and Sandeep from Antstack, where they were showing some stuff they had done for our customer, Julian Wood hosting that. So I encourage you to go back, catch that when you can. Some great information there. All right, so we're going to jump into SAM Accelerate. Now, before we do that, before I turn it over to you, Mehmet, I'm gonna show a couple of the slides. And if you know me, I'm not a big fan of using the slides in this show, but I want to show you a couple things so you get an idea of what SAM Accelerate is. And SAM Accelerate is something that is not readily or not is not publicly available yet. And what I mean by that is you can't just download and install it. But Mehmet, have we made it available to them through beta? Did we get a wiki on that?
The code is out there. We have prepared the wiki, how to install the current Accelerate version, and we will be publishing the wiki or README page today.
Excellent. Okay, so if you want to kind of do this. You want to mess around with it? You can download and build. So we get crazy. I always call myself self-developer when I get to say make. I love that. I'm making something or I'm building something. And so, but yeah, you kind of get your hands on this. But we're going to walk you through why would you even want to do this? What is this and why did we build this? So let me bring up my screen real quick here. And Mehmet, I don't know if you saw the final version of this, but AWS SAM Accelerate aims to increase infrastructure accuracy for testing with incremental builds, SAM sync, and aggregated feedback for developers. And now this is a partial slide from the presentation I did last week, and it kind of explains why we're building this. And let me walk through that really quick. We believe with infrastructure accuracy, we believe that you should test as much as possible in the cloud, right? And meaning, and I talked about this before. I've spent so much time wrestling with emulators, right? And I don't have this slide, but in a slide I put, I would rather wrestle with cores than I would emulators. And if you follow me at all, you know that, man, cores beats me up. And I'm not talking about cores, the drink. I'm talking about cross-origin resource scripting, right? It's very, it can be complex. But so is Docker Network, and so is getting your emulators to work together. So what we encourage you to do is really the only emulation you should be doing is on that Lambda function and going through an API gateway. And Mehmet, feel free while I'm talking to absolutely come in and go, no, Eric, I disagree with you, because I love your feedback. No, you'll never be invited to the show again if you disagree with me. But feel free to do that, if you want. But we really encourage folks to do as little testing. Well, no, let me rephrase that. To only test that Lambda function, basically unit level testing on the Lambda function, right? So that, or on the local machine. So through API gateway or or directly invoking the Lambda function, so that you can test that code and iterate very quickly. But we want you to be able to test the rest of it in the cloud. And if your local Lambda function is invoking a service like a DynamoDB or a step functions, then invoke the actual service. I can call DynamoDB from a Lambda function on my local machine. So that's why we say we want to increase your infrastructure accuracy, because the reality, and even AWS SAM, Mehmet, don't come after me on this, but even AWS SAM is not a perfect emulator of the Lambda service and API gateway. We don't handle, you're kind of doing this, but we don't handle like cores and API gateway. We don't handle, there's not authorization, some of those things, right? So it's not, but that's by design. It's not like, oh, we forgot that. It's by design because we really feel like it should be done local.
And also the permissions. Let's say you take the DynamoDB example, right? You test it locally, you maybe write directly to DynamoDB or mock it, and you validate it. But once you deploy it, you will see that, oh, I forgot to add read or write permissions, so that it fails when you deploy the function.
That's right. Yeah, we see that a lot. I love Dan MBA put this cores emulation. That's right. So let's go through and talk about what we're doing with SAM Accelerate and the purpose, and then we're going to demo it for you. And Mehmet's going to walk through that. So the first thing we do is we've created this thing called an incremental build, and this isn't actually part of SAM Accelerate. This is going to be part of SAM Build, right? Which still towards the same goal. But in the currently, if I do a SAM build, right, whether I'm doing Python or I'm doing Node or whatever, what it's going to do is it's going to grab, every time I do a SAM build, it's going to rebuild all the dependencies, okay, and it rebuilds the code. But what we found is that we don't really need to rebuild all the dependencies every time. How often are you adding new dependencies? So we've split those out, and we said every time you do a SAM build, we're going to check, did they change the requirements.txt or the package.json, whatever. If so, then we'll rebuild the dependencies. If not, then we'll just build out the actual code itself. So for instance, if you saw my last version of my code, I said, hello world. I wanted to change that to howdy because I married a Texan. She doesn't say howdy. I say howdy more than she does, but she's Texan. And so once I do that, then the only thing that's going to get built is going to be that howdy. Everything else is going to be in cache. Does that sound right? Did I explain that right, Mehmet?
Yeah, true.
Okay.
We need the cache flag in the build. That's the only thing.
Say again.
For the incremental build, so what we are doing with the incremental build is that we are changing the cache build. So right now we have SAM build -- cached, and what happens is that if you don't change anything in your code URI, then we will just use whatever is already built before. But we are changing the behavior of cache build. So if you never change your requirements, then we don't going to pull them again, and as you mentioned.
Right. Okay, and that makes sense. There was a comment. I drew those lines, and yes, they're not exactly straight. So that's the first thing we're doing to help improve speed, to accelerate. We are breaking this down into incremental builds. So really, it becomes very specific on what we build when you do a SAM build. So the second thing we're doing here, back over my PowerPoint, is we're doing AWS SAM Sync. Now, this is where we get into SAM Accelerate, right? This is where we say, okay, these are the things we're building out as part of this. Now, before we get into this, we need to understand that what we as a SAM team are considering code and what we're considering configuration, right? So code is Lambda function code. I mean, it's right in there, Lambda function code. So we consider code. Lambda layer code, step functions, Amazon States language, which is the ASL, and then API gateway open API, right? And there's some caveats around that, and I'll explain it in just a minute. So when we do the SAM, we're going to talk about SAM Sync here. We evaluate, did the code change or did configuration change? And you see our list of code. Configuration is everything else. So how does that work? So currently, let's say, like I said, we want to get you out to the cloud as fast as possible. Currently, any changes I make in SAM, I have to do a SAM deploy. And this is a stack update. Now, CloudFormation is smart enough to say if you only change the API gateway, then that's all I'm going to change. But it takes a while, and we all kind of go get another Diet Dr. Pepper, because I know that's what we all drink. And while that stack update, it's not as fast as we'd like. And even if we do, it is fairly short. That time adds up if I have to do it every time I want to iterate against a Lambda function or my ASL or my Open API gateway, things like that. So what we're looking at doing is with SAM Sync, there'll be a command called SAM Sync. If the only thing I have changed is the code, then we're going to do a quick code update. It's not going to go through CloudFormation. And Mehmet, if I'm correct, it literally just is. It's kind of like the CLI call, Lambda update code, right?
Yes, correct. We are going to call the Lambda APIs to update the code directly.
Right. So we're not going through CloudFormation at all. We're talking directly to the API. Here's the code update. But you as a developer don't have to do all the zip up. You don't have to do all those things to prepare it. It's literally just boom, send it out there. So Lambda code changes. That's how we do it. Same with ASL. If you actually change, if you have this external ASL file, which is how we encourage you to do it in SAM, you build this file and reference it. If you change that, then that's updated simply through an API call. If you change the event bridge configuration, well, that's configuration. So we actually do a stack update through CloudFormation to update that configuration. However, if we do Open API update, then it just does a quick update on that. But the caveat on that is when you set this up is when we're using Open API. See, Open API and SAM are not the same thing. If I configure my stuff through SAM, then that's going to be a configuration change. If I configure it through Open API in an external file and reference it, and you can see how I'm referencing it here, then that will actually update that. So if I change that, it'll make that update for you. So did I get that right, Mehmet?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. That's 2 for 2. What? Hey, we're going to end the show here because I haven't made a mistake yet. Everybody have a good night. No, I'm just kidding. So, all right. So with that, again, that Open API update, if we make a change there, that goes out. So a change to the Lambda function configuration. I want to change the memory. I want to change the timeout. Well, then we have to do a stack update because that's a configuration change. However, what if I just change the layer itself, right? Well, that's like we said, that's a code update, and then we just push that. All right, so this will be available with AWS SAM Sync and AWS SAM Sync Watch. And the only difference in that, I'm sure you probably already figured it out, and I don't need to explain it, but SAM Sync it'll literally sync your local SAM template with the infrastructure up in the cloud. So we change that, or the code, or however, like we just talked through. SAM Sync Watch says, hey, watch it, and every time I make a change, push that up. All right. So we have a couple of questions coming in here that we're gonna look at before I go on. So let me drop this out. All right. So let's go back here. Hello from Stockholm. Welcome. John Watson, EG, I believe, test alpha production. Yes. Okay. Yes, I was getting my hands dirty when it was for. Yes, I was all over that. Sorry, I did see some questions here. All right, Sam uses CF. Let's pull this up here. Sam uses CloudFormation in the background. So any resources, changes in the CloudFormation stack would detect it, right? Anything more incremental builds with SAM helps us. So Sam does use CloudFormation in the background. So SAM is an abstract on top of CloudFormation. When we deploy, it's actually, and here's something I think a lot of people get confused on, and Mehmet, this is one of those places where if I get this wrong, jump in. But sometimes I just talk and hope I'm right. But so when I have a SAM template literally is a CloudFormation template that requires a transform. When we submit it to CloudFormation, it actually CloudFormation, not SAM, CloudFormation runs that transform.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right. I was waiting for the. That's absolutely wrong, Eric. Please stop talking. So CloudFormation runs that transform, and then it's converted to an actual CloudFormation template. So we expand these serverless resources to their counterpart. Like a serverless function gets expanded to often, a function, an API gateway, some policies, that kind of stuff, and then CloudFormation deploys it. So if you ever come across like in the console and you want to deploy something in the console, you can still use the same template because it'll do a transform, right? So SAM uses CloudFormation in the background, so any resource changes in the CloudFormation stack would detect it, right? So SAM Watch is going to detect those changes, but it's going to still use CloudFormation if it's configuration. So Zach, I hope that answers your question. And you had a follow up here. So code changes doesn't deploy it from CF. That's right. Instead, it does Lambda up. That's exactly right. And it is beautiful. That is exactly right. So, all righty. Other question we had is, are there any rollback implications with SAM Sync? I pass that to you, Mehmet.
If the deployment fails, let's say you make a template change and we run the CloudFormation sync, CloudFormation stack update. If there's an issue with your template, the deployment will fail. But you can able to go back to your template, edit it, and save it. And as soon as you save it, Watch will detect that and run another update stack. And if this time his stack is correct, then the deployment will succeed.
So, but to be clear, not only will it fail, it will roll back.
Yeah, the regular CloudFormation steps will go there.
Right. Yeah. So some of the things we're seeing, and this, Dan, this may be what you're driving at as well, is CloudFormation just released some technologies around not rolling back, about only stopping on the the part that broke. That you can't apply that with SAM at this time, right?
Not yet.
Right. Because those are actually that's not part of the template as a configuration. It's actually part of the CLI as configuration. Is that you set some metadata around the template, but not in the template itself. But yeah, there you go. So,
by the way, with SAM Sync, we are not targeting to replace anything in CloudFormation. CloudFormation is still way to go if you are deploying to your beta, gamma, or prod stages. With SAM Sync, we are targeting for development cycle. So we want to move the development stack from your local environment to your cloud environment, and do quick syncs and test the changes and verify if it's working.
That's exactly right. Yep, couldn't have said it any better myself here. Going on here, just curious if we have a rollback to a specific version of CF template, where's the code stored? Does it build and maintain versions on S3?
If you have rollback specific version to cloud, so let's say, as far as I understand, if you roll back your change on your template and you want to do a deployment, and in the background we will run SAM deploy. So we will zip your code, upload it to S3, and then upload the template with the new location to S3, and then the CloudFormation will handle the deployment.
So it is stored in S3. That's right. So these are stored in a SAM managed bucket. When the first time you use SAM, you'll see a new template in your CloudFormation that is a SAM managed, and what it's managing is an S3 bucket. You'll also see one if you use container-based images or image-based Lambda functions. You'll see one or more for that as well. All right. So let me jump back into this real quick and kind of finish this, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mehmet because his stuff is much more interesting than mine. But I wanted to make sure we have a good understanding of this. So the final thing we did, we talked about, we said we want to improve that accuracy by building faster, by syncing, by using AWS Sync. And the last thing is this aggregated feedback to developers. And what we want to do is we want to say, if you have logging, and that's usually at CloudWatch or AWS X-Ray, right? Well, the logging is in CloudWatch, and you have tracing in X-Ray. We want to bring that all to a point where you can get that information quickly, right? And there is currently a function called SAM logs that will actually read. You can pass SAM logs or you can pass a Lambda function, and it'll read that function. But that only works with Lambda functions right now, correct?
Yes.
Right. So, okay, great. So we want to change that where you can actually, you can grab the CloudWatch logs for the Lambda function, for the API gateway in front of it, and for, this is like I'm doing three fingers. I'm really bad at Marco Polo too. And the AWS X-Ray, so you can get your traces as well. So with that, I'm gonna pull this out, and Mehmet, I'm gonna bring up your screen, and you ready to show off some SAM Accelerate?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
All right, here we go. And then we've got a couple other questions coming in, but we'll handle those in a little bit. I'm not ignoring questions, just so you know. Here we go.
Okay, cool. So I have my serverless application here, and what I have, maybe I can just pull up my template. I have my API definition, implicit API definition with a function in it. So I have my SAM function, which has the implicit API definition here with an endpoint SAM. And I'm also using a layer here within the function, and which is just a basic function in it. So this is my serverless function. I have my handler defined here. I'm importing my layer function here, calling it, printing the result, and returning the result object. And in my layer, what I have is just simple SAM function, and that's it. Let me pull up my console here. So here's my terminal. So as Eric mentioned, I want to start the watch, SAM sync watch here. So I'm going to run SAM sync watch. I need to pass my stack name, and I'm going to pass the watch flag here. When I start this, what we are doing with this SAM sync watch is that we want to first do the CloudFormation deployment, because we want to restore your CloudFormation stack with your current local stack. So for that reason, we are running the CloudFormation deployment. This will take a little while. But once it's done, the subsequent code changes will be done as Eric mentioned. So we will make a code change. It will use the Lambda APIs directly, and we don't need to wait for CloudFormation.
That's right. This is just the first time only.
Yeah.
Make sure everything's out there.
Okay. So we see that InfraSync is completed. So what I can do, I can go back to here and make a curl. And here's my result. It's 8. So let's change the parameters here. So let's change to 6, save it, go back to my sync. You see, syncing Lambda function, it build, and then it finish the Lambda function sync. I can go back to here, call my API, and now the result is 0. So my function is updated. I'm calling it. I'm getting the new result.
That is so awesome.
So
that actually pretty much synced before you found it in your logs. You jumped back over there to find it, but yeah, and that says a little bit about how fast sync is, a little bit of how slow you are. But I mean, either way, it's good, right?
So we're doing this way. So we are syncing, we're building, and it's done. So now let's pull some logs from our execution. So I'm going to switch to here. I already made the changes. So I'm going to call SAM dev logs. As Eric mentioned, we already have the logs command, but the current version of logs command, you have to specify the stack name plus the function name in order to pull the logs for a certain function. But what we done with the SAM Accelerate is that you now just pass the stack name, and with tail, I'm just passing the start time now. I don't want to get the older logs. And what it will do, it will find all the resources in your template that we can pull the logs. These are functions, API gateways, and step functions. So I'm going to start this now. And then I'm going to come here and then call my API again. And then after a couple of seconds later, Lambda buffers the logs for a while. And we should see our logs. So I can see that my Lambda execution started. I call line layer with these parameters. Result is this. Execution is ended. The API gateways buffer is a little bit longer. Here, I got the API gateway logs, and I can see them here. So let's make a change. And I'm going to make a sprint here. SAM Accelerate. Wait, if I can write. And I'm going to come back here. I'm waiting for sync to complete. Sync is done. And I'm going to invoke my function once again. And now I should see the log statement is updated.
There it is.
From SAM Accelerate. Now this is done. Let me do a small change in my layer, and let's introduce some latency. So I'm going to do some time sleep here. Let's make it for 2 seconds, save it, go back to terminal. Now it finds out that the layer has changed. It's updating layer, and then it updates the function definition, because each layer update will create a new layer version. So we have to update the function configuration with that. So let me some space and for my API again. Oh, the log message is not correct anymore. Anyway, should be sleeping 2 seconds, right? I can do this really quick. It's done. Call my API again. It's waiting 2 seconds, then printing the result, and I'm gonna get the logs here. So now I have this latency in my API call. So what I can do is that I can also use a new command, which is SAM traces. So just like logs command, we introduce SAM traces, and you can do tail as well. And I'm gonna do start time now. Okay. Now I'm gonna call my API again. And what we are doing in the background is, as soon as there's a new X-ray event is stored in your X-ray service, then we are going to print that one. So you can see that your our total call to API is 2 seconds, and we can see that the 2 seconds is coming from the invocation here. So if you have, well, you can also go to X-ray console, but if you don't want to switch to your browser and go back to your terminal, you can use traces here. And last but not least, we also included, so you may don't want to have like a couple of terminal monitors windows to run all of this. So what we done is that we, within the logs command, you can do include traces and run it. And what we will see here is that when you invoke your function, we will see logs plus your X-ray traces in a single stream. So I can see that my X-ray is populated. I can see the details here, and I can see my logs, and the API gateway logs will be available soon.
Man, that's cool. So talk to me about the start time now. So that's just a filter. That's a time filter, right? I could say start time 5 minutes ago, start time yesterday, things like that. So there's some natural language logic there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the start time is already an existing flag in the logs. So I can just do some dev logs, help, and start time. So you can just say 5 minutes ago, or you can give like a date time format, and we will parse it and start from this date.
And you can pass start time and end time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like let's say you executed your function and you want, like it was an hour ago, you want to fetch that logs or traces, you can give the start time and end time, and you can get the logs and traces. And by the way, for the traces comment, you also have the option to pull the trace with trace ID. Let's see. So this is my trace ID, for instance. Oh, I just killed that one. Let me find another one. Okay. Let's tail the logs again.
I'm so glad to watch other people misspell stuff. That's probably selfish on my part.
Okay. It's golden again. Waiting for the logs. Yeah, here's the XA trace ID. So I can grab this. And I can do some their traces, trace -ID, paste this one. I can see just a single trace one. Yeah.
See, that to me seems like the most logical work. When I've been working this, having the trace every time, that's a lot of data that I probably don't need every time. So for me, say I would turn on SAM logs tail, SAM logs start now tail, and then if something doesn't look right, then I pop over another window and say, "Give me the trace ID on that." And this, this information is on the console. You're right, but man, if you're anything like me, it's if I can get it locally in terminal without having to pop out to yet another window and go to those kinds of things, that's huge. That's shaving time off my development cycle. So, hey, we have a couple of questions. You wanna go see? We'll go back and see if we can answer here.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So Dan, he said he was thinking along the line of Canary deploy. He said didn't apply. So. Okay, we have this question. How do you compare SAM with serverless? I'm assuming you mean serverless framework there. I'm like, SAM builds serverless, but I think you mean, serverless framework or Go serverless. They're both frameworks for building. We have preferences. Here's what we say on that is either one. So for serverless framework, they're one of the first frameworks around. They're phenomenal. They do some great stuff. Use a framework. They're a partner of ours, and so we say, look, use a serverless framework, use a SAM, use a CDK. The cool thing about SAM or CDK is with either one of those, this kind of stuff is going to work, right? So whether you're using CDK, now we're not supporting CDK on the SAM Accelerate stuff yet, but that's maybe yelling at me a little bit, but that's something that would be in the works because we support CDK with SAM. It's in beta right now, but that's something. So, as far as a comparison, I don't have one for you. I mean, we have different approaches, but they're very similar, and so I would say it's worth looking at. One of the things that Serverless has is a plugins. But that's something that we are also looking to add as well for plugins, and that is part of our open roadmap. So I'm not telling any secrets there that I know of, unless Mehmet makes grimy faces at me. So, and I'm going to give you a link to our open roadmap in a few minutes because we want your feedback. We want to know, what y'all think. So, all right, SAM logs have access to CloudWatch, right? X-Ray is also accessible to SAM logs. Well, X-Ray was not until now. So SAM logs, it was a very specific, you could get an X-ray ID, but you couldn't get the X-rays. There you go. Kyle Roach says, dang, that's nice. Kyle, I agree. Very much so. All right, so I'm going to pass this one to you. I'll read it real quick. So from the demo, if the layer is changed, it needs a CF deploy or it happens from Lambda layer publish API call. And the layer version ARN update on Lambda function also from CF stack or Lambda config update API. Go ahead. Do you follow what he's asking?
Yeah. So when we make a layer change, it's happening on the second option, as you mentioned. So what we are doing is that we call the Lambda API to create a new version of your layer with the latest changes. And then we will call the function API to update the layer. So I can show you really quickly. Where is my? Okay. So if I change, let's comment this here and this. I will save this. And if I go back to here and see, it's syncing some layer. It's building it, and it finished syncing the some layer, and then it's updating the function code, and then finishes the function called update. So we are calling the Lambda APIs in the background to sync your layer changes quickly.
And it's actually updating the ARN that it's grabbing?
Yes. So we are
Okay.
updating function configuration to point the latest ARN with the latest layer version.
Nice. Well, yeah, I guess not the ARN, but the layer version, which is
Yeah.
part of the ARN. So, okay, awesome. All right, so we had another question from the Tech Guy 21. He said, "Can I see the time taken during cold starts in the logs?"
I'm not sure if you can see in the logs, but I think you can see it in the traces. So maybe it's overhead. I'm not sure, but I would suggest to check the X-ray documentation. But how X-ray
Yeah.
prints this information, I think this is your pure invocation, and anything about cold start or initialization goes into overhead. I'm not sure, but I would recommend to check the logs.
Yep. And yeah, hit me. And if that doesn't make sense, hit me at EDJ Geek on Twitter, and we can follow up on that as well. So, okay, so we have one here, and because this is serverless office hours, we try to answer all the service questions. This is a good one. Is there a way to use Dockerfile to package the Lambda zip with SAM? Well, there is. We actually we at reInvent last year we introduced image support, so Docker image support to back Lambda functions. So and coming along with that was you get a bigger function. You're limited to 256 meg in a package file going up with SAM with the zip file. Is that right? Am I sizing? Yeah, that's right. That should be right. Call me out if it's not. But with these, you can get up to 10 gig. And the reason for that is we know that folks with Docker images, they need to, you might be, packaging, some huge packages for AI or different smart things that I can't spell. But you have the ability, and SAM natively will build and deploy these for you. So can you do a SAM init? Can you show them how to just pop up, or I can pop up my screen, but can you show them how to create a zip
Yeah.
real quick?
Zip or image?
I'm sorry, image. Yeah. So it's no longer a zip file; it's now an image. But yeah, if you'd show them that's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna select the quick start templates here. It's cloning the out templates. And select hello world and file. Oh, this is wrong version. Let me do this. User SAM it. Start template. I will select the image one, and here you go. You can select one of the images, these images, and this will create an image-based function. And you will have a Docker file inside your function, so you can change your base image or you can add additional stuff to your Docker file.
That's right. And the cool thing is when you deploy this, and what Mehmet was saying is he has the beta version as SAM here, and it doesn't have that in there at the moment. That'll be merged in later, obviously. But when you deploy this, we just released a feature that will automatically create your ECR repository. And so when you do the deploy, it's going to check, oh, hey, you didn't tell me where this ECR should go and where it'll be. So how about I create an ECR repo for you? And it'll ask you, do you want to do that? Yes. And then and it'll push that out. And I would suggest doing just what Mehmet did. Go ahead and do a SAM init. Choose one of the image-based ones, and it'll show you exactly. We use a Docker file, and SAM will call that Docker file to build the image. It'll show you exactly how it works. So really cool. All right, so we had another question here. We had this question from John. It says, any plans yet to replace Docker Desktop and SAM? Building since it's going to be a paid model. We don't have, unless maybe you know anything different. At the moment, I don't have any information on that for you.
Well, not replacing Docker Desktop, but what we are doing is that we are publishing our images, build and invoke images to a public ECR repo. So instead of using Docker Hub, we are moving there. And this is like our direction at the moment.
Yeah, but at the moment, if you're still using the equipment, that doesn't affect. I mean, so your local Docker usage is still going to be subject to those licenses. So, brilliant. A new container support was there on Amplify, not container and SAM. Yes, it is brilliant. It's there. So, yep, we're getting some. Never knew you could do this. I'm looking for more questions here. Yep. Looks like we have answered all the questions. All right. Do you have anything else you're going to show? That's for sorry.
That's for me.
Yeah, that was for you. Sorry. Yeah.
That's all from me.
Okay, that's all we're going to show. All right, so what I want to do is if you have any other questions, we're going to open it up for anything serverless. So this is a serverless office hours, and all the hard ones Mehmet will answer, and I'll answer the easy ones or not. We could go the other way, but we do have one coming in here. Is there a way to tag these default buckets and ECRs that SAM creates during deployment? I'll leave that to you.
By tagging, I mean, as far as I remember, we are not adding any tags like created by SAM or something like that, but you can add tags to your template. Oh, wait, these are default buckets and ECRs SAM creates.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think we are adding tags to them. I can go back and check the template that we are deploying, but as far as I remember, we are not adding tags, but you will see a description about the buckets and ECRs. But we can share with you the template that we are deploying. It's in the SAM CLI code in GitHub, so we can check if the text is present or not there.
Yep. And also, this is what this is for. I'll go ahead and take that back to the team as a wish also. So just a minute. And Mehmet, people want tags on the buckets when they deploy. So, all right, I've taken it to the team. So there we go. All right, what other questions we have? All right, here. Okay, we have when using Docker, does SAM add ECR as part of your CloudFormation stack? It does. So when you do that deploy and it says, oh, hey, you don't have ECR there, we're going to go ahead and it creates what's called a companion stack. And it'll be tied to that your primary stack is your application. We create a companion stack that will manage those ECRs. And it's one companion stack per application, Mehmet? I don't remember because we went back and forth on this. Or is it one companion stack for all of them? I think it's one per application, right?
For Auto ECR, I think it's one per application, but the managed S3 is one per region.
That's right. Now, and here's the fun part. We also came out with a new feature called SAM Delete. And SAM Delete will actually, and that's what you want to use, especially with these ECRs, because SAM Delete's going to be aware of these companion stacks. So if I go in and say, look, I'm going to get rid of these. Now, as you make changes, so scenario here, I build a template. It's got two functions in it, right? Each one is image-based, so it's going to create two ECR repos, one for each function, right? Now, if I delete one of those functions, SAM, so I make a change that, SAM's going to be aware and clean that up. So we do cleanup, so you're not paying for these ECRs to be out there or repos if you're not out there. If I do a SAM delete, then it's going to clean all that up as well. So a lot of work going on in the background, so I encourage you to use the SAM delete when you're taking that. Yes, I agree, John Walsh. You're welcome for SAM delete. That was what I tell people when Mehmet or anybody else isn't around is that was my idea, but it probably wasn't. So, all right. Okay. So here's the big question, Mehmet. When will this be available in a downloadable SAM version?
Okay. So as we mentioned, we are going to publish instructions how to install, just like I use. It's just a development version. And in the upcoming weeks, we will release the beta version, just like the CDK one. You can install with a different name. It will have a different binary name. So you can use the Accelerate in, for testing. And yeah, so this is our goal. And once the beta done, we are going to merge and it will be available in the regular release.
That's right. And I'm super excited. I've been playing with this for a little while. I've been hassling Mehmet for years now, and they're doing he and his team are doing just an amazing job. And there's more coming for SAM. Like I said, so I'm going to post a link here. It's going to come from just start the root here, but so I have to say it out loud apparently when I type. So this is the SAM CLI roadmap Okay, so if we put that, and just so you know, she's been answering questions. Pranita is in here. Pranita is our new PM for SAM. She's doing a phenomenal job. She's driving the open roadmap. I really appreciate you being here to help answer questions. And if you want to post, Pranita, some of the links directly to the issues for the open roadmap, that'd be great as well. So, so we have a question: is it possible to be it's possible for public to be beta testers, public for SAM? So yeah, when we come out with, in a sense, that's what you are, because this is going to be a beta that's coming out, and you will be beta testers. And so we want your feedback, and the best way to give us that feedback is by issues on the repo. So and that should be, I think we'll list that in the wiki on how to do that. So
yeah,
all right.
Like other than our regular releases, we introduced 2 betas. One is, kind of beta. One is nightly release. So if you have any recent changes and you want to test it, you can use our nightly release to test this. This is first. And the other 2, like the other one right now is the CDK. It's a major development. It has its own beta. So if you want to check how SAM CLI plays with CDK, you can install that beta and play around with it. And we will have the Accelerate beta coming soon as well.
Yeah, exactly. And we had another question. I'm just checking real quick here before we get. All right. So we had a question. Says serverless question: is it possible to set up Cloudwatch Canaries features using SAM with CFN? So if you're not familiar with the Canary, this Cloudwatch Canary, these are great for running scripts against your APIs, different things like that. There's a blueprint for API Gateway in there that you can run. But the question is, can we do that with SAM? And the answer is yes. That's something we're working on. I know that was out in beta at one point, or in a beta release. So we'll get you a link to that. But it's something we're working on. Mehmet, do you have any other information on that?
No. Unfortunately.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Yeah. So, but it is something we're working on to keep that. So. Another question: any updates on SAM CDK integration? So it is still beta. So it's out there. We're doing work constantly on it, but it is still in beta. So with any time with beta, I caution as using it in production, things like that. But man, Kyle, I encourage you to test it and give us feedback on the repo. So. Lots of information there. So Pranita is loading up the chat with the information. So if you're not, so real quick, I'll take some of these and move them over as well. If you're not on, I'm going to post these on the screen so you can grab them. If you're not on Twitch, you might be seeing these you won't be seeing these in the YouTube channel, but you can grab them as we go back. So I'm going to post each of these, give them some time. So. All right, so here's a question, John Party. Is there a smart way to handle daylight savings time with CloudWatch events? Building a step function just for that reason seems clunky. I'm not sure I have an answer to that. Mehmet, what do you think? Do you have an answer?
No, unfortunately, I don't have an answer.
Okay.
But yeah. Is it
so John,
CloudWatch events, or I guess this is related to CloudWatch events.
Yeah, it's being able to send events, localized events, and not just chronological based on. So, John, what I would encourage you to do, hit me on Twitter, EDJ Geek. You're welcome to DM me, and I'll see if I can find any information on that. So, John Walsh is saying, "Yep, CloudWatch events," but I'm not sure that localized that'll, or he's just saying, "Yeah, that's what he's asking about." All right. Well, with that, we'll give you just a few more minutes for any other questions, and then with that, we can roll this out. So I'll give that. While I'm doing that, I'm going to bring up. First of all, hey Mehmet, I really appreciate you being here, man. Great demo. Folks are excited about this, and folks out there watching, I encourage you to, keep asking questions. I know I've said it several times, but I'm going to say it again. We desperately want your feedback. We want to know what's going to work for you. Where can we help you? We want you to be able to develop serverless quickly and efficiently. And we want to know what we want to know what isn't working. What are the sharp edges? We want to know what is working that we can double down on. So please, do the issues on GitHub. If you can't do that, hit me directly at EDJ Geek on Twitter. And I part of my job, we don't just talk outwards. We take coming inwards, right? We tell them. And Pranita, would you post your Twitter handle if you have one, so folks can see that? Because Pranita will be the one I'll be talking to. So, yeah. Or Mehmet, but yeah, I'm probably your best connection, and then I kind of filter those and get them to the right teams. So, all right, with that, and we'll watch for any other questions, but let me tell you about what's coming next week. One moment here. All righty. So next week, obviously we talked about SAM Accelerate this week. Next week, we're going to, and I'll jump by these real quick and then we'll go back, but I want you to see what we're talking about next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about large payloads with Amazon Event Bridge. Nick Schmidt, who is one of our PMs, he's pretty awesome, is going to be joining us. And he and I'll be talking about that. And the question here is, what happens when my payload's too big for Event Bridge, but I still want to pipe it around? He's going to be talking about, storing with a pointer and doing some logic around that. So some really cool stuff on that. So, all right. So let's go back. A couple things to tell you about. If you want to keep up with us on what's going on, the new stuff in serverless, we have this s12d.com, what's new. We host this on Serverless Land, where we have a lot of information. The newest, latest, and greatest. We also have blogs constantly. Our team is a blog writing machine, specifically James. James writes, he actually writes 2 blogs at the same time. He has one computer here, and they're completely independent, and they're both better than anything I write. So really great content coming out. Talia's just put one out on testing. I encourage you to check out. And what we've been talking about, how does serverless and how does this kind of new paradigm change the way we test? Is it still a triangle, or is it now a diamond shape? In the testing triangles kind of changed a little serverless, and that's what we're driving at with SAM is man, do your unit tests locally, but get to the cloud as fast as you can. So after next week, Ben Kehoe is going to be joining me, and we're going to be talking about some security things he's been working on. If you're not familiar with Ben Kehoe, he's one of the premier engineers at iRobot, and does some really cool things and wears suspenders and looks great. So encourage you to join us there. Couple things that we've built. I joked about Cores, but honest to goodness, Cores is a tail kicker. And so I built a client to help you with this. If you go to cores.serverlessland.com and you enter in your Cores settings or what you need, here's my origin, here's the headers I need, here's the methods, it will actually create the SAM Cores configuration for you that you could copy and paste. Mehmet, did you even know I built this?
Wow, that seems pretty cool, man.
It is pretty cool. You're exactly right. So this is really cool. So I built this so you grab that QR and it'll help you out. If you're just new to serverless, Ben Smith, our DA across the pond, they say, he's out of London. He has written this fantastic getting started series. Part 1, 2, and 3 talks about setting up your IDs, getting used to how event-driven applications work. I encourage you to check that out. If you're a little farther along and you're looking to really build your well-architected service applications, Julian Wood has built a series on that. I think there's like 300 posts in this series. That's probably a little exaggerated. There's a lot. He's given a lot of great information on building well. We build serverless, but is it well-architected? Like any other technologies, there are good ways. There are a billion ways to do things, and some are good, some are not so good. So, and like we talked about, the mistakes we make, you can learn from us. And finally, the serverless patterns collection. If you're looking for a place to start, you're like, look, I don't know how to connect API gateway directly to Event Bridge, or I don't know how to do step functions to a Lambda function, or things like that. We've built this series of patterns, and there's quite a few in here. And you just go in and you say, look, I want anything to do with API gateway and Lambda, and it'll show you. Some of them are SAM, some are in CDK. So a lot of good stuff here, best practices on how to build that. All right, we talked about what's coming up next week. We have a few minutes, so I'm going to go back and grab some of these questions. So Mehmet, put your thinking hat back on. Here we go. Let's see what we do. All right, so we have this question: how would SAM sync work in a pipeline scenario? Scenario, how you doing? I'm making up words. Would it still be able to detect deltas, or does it depend on something stored locally to determine what has changed?
So in that regard, as we mentioned, what we will recommend is to use regular deploys, the existing SAM deploy command, which uses CloudFormation in pipelines. So if you have a stage, a test stage, a gamma stage, or a production stage, we will still recommend using the regular CloudFormation deployment, because the sync command, which is in Accelerate, is purely for development purposes. So we want to decrease your development cycles and get the results really fast. But this is not a safe deployment phase. So the safest way to do is just using the CloudFormation.
Yeah. And to add to that, I would encourage you, if you're looking to build pipelines, so this is the plug, if you haven't checked out SAM Pipelines, you need to. And I'll post a link in here that'll go to both YouTube and Twitch. So s12d.com/SAM Pipelines. Ben Smith did a wonderful job. There's several blogs, there's several videos. And SAM Pipelines literally allows me to say, hey, create a pipeline. So it could be on the code tools that code pipeline, code deploy. It could be on Jenkins. It could be with a GitHub action, and it helps you create your CI/CD quickly, so you can get going, as fast as you can. So I'd encourage you to check that out. Yes. Stephen Box, you have called me out. You're right. That should be September 28th. If you're watching this, that should not be today. That should be next week. Wow, I didn't update the date. So good job, Stephen Box. So September 28th is Nick and I. We're going to be talking about large payloads with Amazon EventBridge. All right, we have time maybe for one more question. Kyle's asking if I had two applications in the same account, producer application and a stack of consumers, handlers, which stack should I put the EventBridge bus and rules in? So I would put the EventBridge bus, I would put that in the main stack, right? Because you're going to be pushing to that. So think about pushing and pulling. So I have this producer, so I'm going to create the EventBridge that I'm going to push to, or I'm just going to use the default EventBridge. And in that case, I don't have to build it up. Right. So, but on the Lambda, on the consumers, you can actually use an EventBridge event right on the Lambda function. You don't have to put a separate one. You can put right on there an EventBridge trigger. So that would be in the consumer stack. And then we've got some comments on it. Steven says I typically put it with the application that owns the bus. Consumer would just be yeah, pretty much the exact same thing. So, all right, with that, we're going to sign off. Thank you all for joining us and watching from all over the world. I love that. Mehmet, I appreciate you coming on. I know Mehmet goes 1 billion miles an hour. He never sleeps. He's always working. So he took some time off to do this. Pranita also took time to do this. She is hitting the ground running and going crazy, and we love it. Until next week on the 28th of September, we'll see you next Tuesday. Have a great day. Stay healthy. See you later.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everybody for the invite.